Welcome to this week's vlog. I want to talk about something a little bit more serious, which is burnout. As you can tell, it's something that I've been feeling for maybe the past month-ish or so. How to navigate burnout personally, living and working in Japan. For me, the burnout is less of like workload and more of just mental exhaustion, and just the things that come with that. So I'm gonna touch into all that. Again, these are just my personal feelings and reflections of working in a different culture. I have all these thoughts and emotions and feelings that I'm still figuring out, and even I don't know how to talk about them, and some I just can't talk about. But the few branches that poke through, these few points are the ones that I'm just gonna bring up today in this vlog, so please understand that it's not the whole picture. So I'm gonna start off by talking about just the aspect of being a foreigner and how that's kind of hard on me personally right now. Being in a Japanese company, I always feel 2 steps behind everyone else, and I feel bad for asking for help or for clarification. They have maybe things that they need to do. I don't want to add to that. And yeah, just being hard on myself, because there are a lot of tasks that I do really quickly, things that are more creative based, where it's not so technical, but it's more like creating or marketing or anything like that. But when it comes to technical stuff, I put in like 200% effort to be able to read the document itself, let alone like fill it out. It just takes me so much longer. I struggle with fitting in, and that can be really discouraging and hard mentally. Additionally, most people in general tend to keep to themselves, at least in Tokyo in my experience. So that's another thing that I was struggling with, was just feeling isolated. Even though it probably has really nothing to do with me, I will tend to take things more personally and read into them, which I should not do, and I'm learning not to do that. There are other times where I just feel excluded in general. Small things like that, which again, by themselves are not a big deal, but because there are all these other things that are kind of also stacking up, small things become big things when you're in that mindset, which is not a healthy mindset. But yeah, it's hard not to take things personally again and think, oh my gosh, I must have done something wrong, or they don't like me, and then try to dig into like what the reason could be, which is so unhealthy. It's better not to read into things. And these are just some of the issues that are weighing on me. It's like that imagery of someone holding a water bottle straight out. The first 20-30 seconds is fine, but after a minute it's really heavy. After 2 minutes, unbearable. It's not heavy by itself, but the longer you hold on to it, the heavier it becomes. It's more of a mental thing rather than an actual workload thing. But on this note, since I've been holding it in for so long, I decided to ask one of my close coworkers if we could just go get a drink. And so we drank, and I just spilled everything that I've been feeling, and it was nice talking to someone who understands the situation, because when I talk to family or friends, it's hard to explain everything versus explaining it to someone who's actually also in the same situation. And I felt so much better afterwards. This person was very reassuring and kind and really did validate my concerns, because I think when I keep my thoughts to myself and I just let them ruminate inside my head, they'll start to kind of spiral like out of reality. Like I just start adding my own spins, and I'm like going down these little rabbit holes, you know how overthinking is. So talking to someone who is more grounded in the same reality, really helpful. We sat down and just kind of like, okay, so how should we start this? And I just bring out my notebook, because I have a notebook at work where I just write down my feelings and things that I'm thinking, and I just bring out my notebook and I flip it open, and he was like, I'm sorry, I'm an emotional person. I have a lot of thoughts and I have a lot of things to say, and I don't want to get it wrong, or I want to be careful how I word it. Yeah. But he thought it was really funny. But yeah, ooh, it was pretty. My sleeves are pretty. But yeah, having said all of that, I'm gonna share some ways that I've been fighting burnout that have helped me personally. Everyone's situation is different, but I think there are a lot of solutions that are the same. And I also want to read a quote from Anthony Bourdain. Travel isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. It even breaks your heart. But that's okay. The journey changes you. It should change you. It leaves marks on your memory, on your consciousness, on your heart, and on your body. You take something with you, and hopefully, you leave something good behind. I really like that quote because I think a lot of times travel, and I consider this traveling too, working abroad, you learn a lot about yourself and it changes you. It does, for the better. Because you go through situations that you wouldn't have gone through at home. It is uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable change for the better. I like how it ends with hopefully you leave something good behind, because just like, you know, I'm also learning something from this experience, from living in a foreign country. I also want to leave a positive mark on the country as well and the people that I interact with. Yeah. One of the things that I like to do is a little bit of retail therapy, nothing too crazy, but buying 1 or 2 pieces here and there helps me feel more confident and puts a pep in my step. Another thing I do is making small changes just to help break out of the same dull routine. Eating healthy most of the time. Vegetables, vitamins, minerals actually help your body feel so much better and therefore your mental. And there are ways you can eat healthy for cheap also, like buffets where you get the salad bar and just load up on nutrients, which is what I'm doing here. Next is going outside, as simple as that. Daily walks or walks whenever I can helps so much. Just being in the sun, seeing outside, it just helps me get out of my own mind. This one's kind of obvious, but calling friends, family back home and just ranting or saying whatever's on my mind. As you can see, my poor brother is the victim of this. This one's similar to going outside, but night walks in particular. The city is probably the biggest reason why I love living in Japan. Having things to look forward to. I found this cranberry chocolate chip bagel near my office, and I've been getting it every day just because I like it so much. The next one is very important. This is cleaning, decluttering, getting rid of things that you don't need or old things. Because I feel like for me, when I clean my space, when I clean my apartment, it feels like I'm decluttering my brain also. And it just gives me something to do so I'm not overthinking, something to work on. So on all different fronts, it just helps so much for the mental. And you always feel better afterwards because now you have a clean home and a clean space. Last but not least, quality time. Going out with friends, family, loved ones is so important. Also, I've gotten asked how I'm so comfortable doing things alone, so I want to include a little blurb on that. Because I spend a lot of time alone. If I wait for my friends to be free or to want to do things, I will never do all the things that I want to do. So I've learned to become very comfortable doing things alone. One time I wanted to ride the Ferris wheel. I was on like a day trip by myself and I saw a Ferris wheel and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna ride that. And as I was waiting in line, it was just in front of me, it was like 7 different couples, and then behind me it was like 80 different couples. Like it was just couples, and I was like, I had one of those breaking the fourth wall moments where I was pulled out of my body and I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I here right now? So I'm not saying that it's not ever gonna be hard doing things alone, but it gets easier, and I've never regretted doing anything alone. I've regretted not doing things because I couldn't find the right time to meet up with people, but I've never regretted doing anything alone, so yeah. That's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching if you made it to the end, and thank you for understanding that I can't talk about everything, but just the few vague points that I can bring up. See you in the next one.